Hey, this is Gina Grad.
Hi, this is Teresa Strasser.
Hi, everyone. This is Mike Errico.
Hey there. This is Casey Cavalier.
I'm Rocky Rose.
And you are listening to The Jay Franzi Show.
Lucky you.
Welcome to The Jay Franzi Show. A behind-the-curtain look at the entertainment industry with insights you can't pay for and stories you've never heard. Now, here's your host, Jay Franzi.
Well, hello, and welcome to the show. I am Jay Franzi, and this is your backstage pass to the music industry. This week, we get to talk with a singer, a songwriter, and an entertainer. We get to talk with John Michael Ferrari. We'll talk to him about what it's like being an award winner, what his songwriting process is like, and well, we'll talk to him about being an entertainer in Las Vegas. Now, John, he is not only an amazing singer, songwriter, and entertainer, but he's an amazing guy, and I can't wait to talk with him tonight. So if you would like to join in, comment, or fire off any questions, please head over to jfranzi.com. Now, let's get started. John, my friend, it is so good to have you here. Yeah. Let's just jump right in. Can you tell us what it feels like to be an award winner?
Well, when you get your first award, it's very exciting, and that opens the door for a lot of other things. And I always encourage people to participate in award shows because you never know where it's going to lead. Years ago, we used to have a production company, and we'd cover all the main events in Los Angeles. So we were at the Los Angeles Music Awards. And the president of the Los Angeles Music Awards, Al Bowman, we knew him, and he'd always encourage us. He said, John, he says, participate, submit your songs, and, I think, you do very well. We put it off for years and years, and I finally did. Pepper encouraged me, and we won our first award at the Las Vegas Music Awards, I think, by that time we went there. And that opened the door for a whole lot of opportunity, because once you get an award, you meet a lot of people. A lot of people, notice you, take notice of what you do. And if you have good stuff, you get promoted, and other people want you to participate in their shows, and it's just it's exciting. It moves on. We just got nominated for another award this morning, which will be flying into LA for the award show. And that's next month.
Very nice. Congratulations.
Yeah, that's always exciting when you get recognition for what you do, because it's a tough business, participating, playing night after night. There was a few years ago, actually, I came off the road and I was touring the country, and I came home and I told Pepper, I said, I think I'm done with the music thing. I think I ran out of steam. And by that time, I was doing mostly cover songs, doing shows, rock and roll bands and all kinds of things, but they were all covers. And you can only go so far by doing covers. And she said, well, why don't you continue writing your own material? She said, you're an excellent writer. So I took it to heart, and I started writing and finishing up some of my material. Then one day she said, we're going to Nashville, and we're going to record these songs. And I said, oh, that's a big jump. Because I knew nothing about the record industry. I never thought of me being part of it that way. And we went to Nashville, and we thought, we don't know much, and we're going to take the advice of somebody who's very knowledgeable. We found a really good co-producer, Larry Beard Studios. And he made some suggestions, particularly to one of our songs. He said, you have one too many verses. If you want to get radio play, you got to drop this verse. And within a couple of months, our song hit the charts. Our very first song, we were at the very bottom of the charts, national charts. But it was exciting. I think we were 198 or something like that out of 200. And each week, we noticed that the song was going up. Finally, it made it all the way to number 2. And that was thrilling to have something like that. But, that just showed us, you have to know what your goals are. Our goal was to get radio play.
Well, let me ask you this. You talked about the awards and you talked about how rewarding it was, especially winning your first award. Which was more exciting to you, winning the first award or finding your song in the top 10?
I think that they were both. I mean, it's like having two kids. Like, which one you like the best? I'll take the taller one. Uh, I don't know. I like because each one is a stepping stone in your career. Winning an award and certainly getting national radio play, because that opened up the door, and then people noticed me by getting on the radio and getting radio play. And then when they look me up, they go, "Oh, he won this award. Oh, that's nice. Oh, and he won that award. Oh, look at this. Look, he's got all these other awards too." So it all works together. It's very exciting that way. I like that.
You mentioned Pepper once again, and I want to talk about that relationship because she's listed as your producer, and I want to know the relationship between the two of you when it comes to the studio. What kind of producer is she?
She's very hands-on.
Okay.
She makes all the arrangements. When I write a song, we have a studio here at the ranch. I usually write it on the guitar or the piano, and then I go in the studio and I make full arrangements of the song, what I want it to sound like, orchestration. I do the whole thing. And when we finish with that, she comes in and she listens and she makes comments, and sometimes she'll say, it's a good lyric, but it doesn't go with this song. Rewrite that. Good stuff. And we prepare to go to Nashville. And she makes all the arrangements. We go to Nashville. We end up, we have a pre-production with one of the session leaders. We sit down, we play our recordings, and we tell them what's important to us in the song, but we still leave enough room for the musicians to self-produce, because that's why you're going to Nashville. You got the best musicians in the world.
Right.
You take advantage of their knowledge, and they will self-produce a song. They'll come up with things I didn't even think of. And they go, "Oh my gosh, that's just terrific."
They are some of the best players in the world for sure.
Yeah. But when you're in the studio, there's a lot to think about. And an artist can't be thinking about anything else but singing the song when you're finally there. Her, as a producer, she takes care of everything that's going on in the studio. There's a lot of stuff that's going on. If I have a suggestion of something, I relate it to her, and she'll relate it to the session leader, and then the session leader will relate it to the musicians. I don't talk to the musicians, but she does, and the session leaders, they do. It's a hierarchy, and you have to do it that way because it's fast moving. You only have so much time, and we'll record 5 songs in a session one afternoon, tracking the first day. That's 5 songs. So you have to be completely organized, and the charts are written out for the musicians, and it's quite overwhelming if you're not prepared. It's a lot for a person to take on. It was my first time, it was for me a lot, but now I'm getting used to it. We've gone there so many times. I would suggest that anybody going in the studio, have a producer with you, because it's just too much for an artist to do all that by himself.
Oh, absolutely. I think a producer is paramount when it comes to going in the studio to create something that you want to be commercial, for sure. So let's go ahead and unpack that, because you mentioned a lot of things there. But let's start with the songwriting process. You mentioned either working on a guitar or a piano and coming up with the song. Are you one that creates lyrics first or music first?
They both come at the same time usually. I'll sit down and I'll hum something, and sometimes I'll come up with a melody or an idea, an inspiration. Somebody says something, or somebody moves me in a certain way where I just want to write about it. If you're inspired, that's where all the creativity comes from, your inspiration. If you're not inspired, it's very difficult. You can still write a song, but it may not be as good, or maybe it will be. But for me, I have to be inspired in some way or another. Usually they come at the same time, and I feel I'm connected to a special place in the universe because it speaks to me. And it gives me the lyrics sometimes, or the melodies sometimes. When I'm searching myself for an idea, it's very difficult. It's like trial and error. But when you're locked into that higher self, it's a lot easier, and you come up with some magical things. And I tell Pepper, I say, I can't believe that I came up with this. I really don't feel I did. I think it was a gift from God. God gives me some of these lyrics and the melodies and things. And I thought, that's beyond what I can do.
Where it just kind of flows through you.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good point, too. And you mentioned a couple things. You're sitting down, you've got the idea of a song, you've got an instrument in front of you. Do you wait till you have something fairly complete before you bring it to Pepper?
No, she's right there at the very beginning. She comes in and listens to what I'm kind of working on, and it doesn't say much. She just lets me go with the creativity, and I just keep working on it until I say, what do you think about this? And then she'll sit down and give me her input, which is very valuable to what I'm doing. I'm very fortunate and lucky to have somebody like that. We work well together. But also, let me say this about the process of songwriting. Now, there is a process. I eliminate all external things in my life that would distract me. Very little TV or no TV, very little radio, no news, no nothing. I kind of eliminate all those things from my life so that I can be in the quietness to hear the creativity inside of me. That works for me. Some people need a lot of noise, but I need quiet, sereneness. And that's why living on the ranch, we have animals and things here. And it's very serene. When people come to visit us, they feel that serenity. And for me, in preparation, when I know I'm going to write songs, I prepare that state of mind, usually a couple of weeks in advance before I even start writing, so I can quiet that noise inside my head so I can hear the creativeness that's out there that comes to me.
So another thing you mentioned in there is the process. You want to be creative and you want to come up with the song, the lyric, and the melody. And you talk about going to Nashville, which is very story-focused. Country music is very story-focused, but your music spans beyond country music. So do you find yourself focusing, or let me ask it to you this way, how important is the story to you since your music transcends country music?
Well, I don't know what the song's going to be. It's always unfolding in front of me. And sometimes I write songs that are very country, very visual in content. Other times I'll write songs that are more suited for a Broadway play, that type of thing. A lot of our songs, we get crossover. We'll be on a chart, on the top country chart, and also we'll be on the pop chart at the same time. So our songs cross over. I'm in the country genre. I wouldn't say I'm really a country artist, but my songs lend itself to do that, and I can write that way. But when you have the musicians and they have a slide guitar in there, you think, oh, that sounds a little country. Even though it's a pop song, there's a little country in there. So I think that's part of the good strategy. That's why we get crossover. Some people are just pop, some people are just country. We're very fortunate. Almost all of our songs have hit country and pop charts.
How would you describe the genre then?
It's hard. It's a combination of pop and country. Also, I do a lot of, I used to sing Broadway songs years ago. So I have that influence. I mean, I have influence of Motown, all kinds of things inside of me. As a kid, I knew all the songs. I'd listen to the radio. And once I started performing and singing and playing in clubs, I'd have to learn all these songs. Well, I was learning the structure of all the hits. So when you learn that structure, people go to college and learn all this stuff. I was on the job learning it. I really had an insight. When I started writing songs, I knew all about structure and format. I didn't know the terminologies and everything, but I just knew instinctively. But then I learned the craft of songwriting, what the nomenclature was of the songs and what I was doing, how to craft a song, put it together that way. And I can teach other people how to do that sometimes. I work with other songwriters.
Well, you live in Las Vegas, and you yourself, you're more than just a singer-songwriter, you're also an entertainer. And in Vegas, entertaining is everything. So we're in Nashville, the song is everything. It's all about writing a song. So do you feel like Las Vegas plays into who you are?
Oh yeah, yeah. When I was a kid, I went to high school and lived down here in Las Vegas for a while, and I used to sneak into the clubs, and I would see the people up on stage, and I thought that's what I want to do. I want to do that, be on stage and performing, and they had some of the best performers. And I don't know if you know, like Louis Prima,
Yep.
Kaylee Smith.
Oh yeah.
These were people that played the lounges that were true entertainers. But you got to see all the major entertainers come into the lounge, and then they'd move on to the main showroom. But a lot of them would play the lounge. Playing the lounge was a major thing. But I knew that's what I wanted to do, because there's a big difference. When I go to Nashville, I do writer's rounds with some of my friends. And that's when you have 3 or 4 writers on stage with a guitar, and you play your songs. Each one takes a turn, like, here's one of my songs, and tell a little story about it, and then you sing your song, the next guy plays his song. So a lot of people know me as a singer-songwriter, but here in Vegas, when I perform, it's like it's a show. I don't get up and sing and play guitar. I don't use the guitar at all. I get up and I'm singing, I'm dancing, I'm moving and doing all the things as an entertainer, interacting with the audience. You have all your little shtick. So there is a big difference.
You mentioned the early days of sneaking in to seeing these people perform. What did you learn from those people at that time?
Charisma. They had an enormous amount of charisma, an enormous amount of energy. As a singer-songwriter, you can sit up there and play your guitar and just sing, and you don't have to do much because it's not about anything else but your song. When you're performing and doing shows and people are putting down $40, $50, $60, $100, $200 for a ticket, they want to be entertained. They expect to be moved some way emotionally. They'll come in at one level, but you have to be up here and you have to bring them up to this level. You have to create a visualness, interacting with the audience. They want to see how well you sing and how well you interact and how well you can tell stories and all these different things. I remember I got to go backstage and watch Sammy Davis Jr. from the Wings, backstage. I was very fortunate to be able to do that. I did that watching Wayne Newton one time, and it was a thrill to see how professionals entertain. It's a gift, but you can develop that gift, if you work at it. When I was young, playing all the little clubs around the Bay Area, in San Francisco, Walnut Creek, and Lafayette, and all around there were clubs everywhere. There were steakhouses, and everyone had entertainment. Usually a guitar player in the corner, playing on Jim Croce and Cat Stevens songs, John Denver songs. And then you learn your craft. And I was getting paid. I was getting $35, $40 a night, plus tips. And that was good money, because my rent was only $60 and sometimes $90 a month. So I was making good
in San Francisco. Just
up in San Francisco Bay Area, yeah.
$7,500 now.
Yeah, but it was a good way to learn your craft and get paid for it. See, they don't have that today. If you live in Nashville, they don't pay singer-songwriters to perform in clubs. Now they'll pay a cover band sometimes. If you're working on Broadway,
playing for
but
tips,
even they're working for tips. But here, doing shows. Anywhere else, people buy a ticket, they come in, have a couple of drinks, sometimes dinner house. We play country clubs. They come in for an evening of entertainment and dancing, and you got to wow them when they come in. And it's a completely different thing, singing and entertaining.
No, but it really is.
Yeah.
So how old were you then when you first made your way into your first performance at Vegas?
After I got out of the military, I came back to Las Vegas. I was working at Circus. Have you ever been to Circus?
Yes, I have.
Okay, well, I was one of those guys that worked the games, wore their little polka dot shirts and worked all those little games that the kids play at. And then I would get little jobs around town, singing in some of the smaller clubs. and sometimes the lounges in around Vegas. I had a really good agent. He would book me.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. How'd you get an agent?
Well, back a long time ago, we all had agents. I mean, most of the entertainers that I knew, we had agents, and you would audition, or they'd hear of you and they'd sign you up. And when I worked Orange County, Santa Ana, Orange County down there, I had several agents, and they kept me booked all the time. We didn't go out and look for our own jobs. The agents had all that locked up. They had contracts with different companies, Far West Services, which was Rubens, Coco's restaurants in Orange County. And I worked for them for years, worked all their venues. We'd get calls and we would sing it 2 or 3 weeks at one venue, and then they'd put it at another venue, and then they'd book us somewhere else. And then somebody didn't show up, they'd call us, well, can you go fill in for so-and-so? And oh, yeah. We go down to Newport Beach, singing on they have a big riverboat.
Right.
They used to sing on there, and all the different places. It was a different world. Yeah, we had agents, and they did a lot of the booking for us, and we paid them 10% of what we made.
How long was it till you finally started feeling comfortable with your own form of charisma and performing in Vegas?
I took to it pretty quickly. I was performing at a casino. It was called the Continental Casino in Las Vegas. It's called something else now. It's I think off of Tropicana. And I was playing the 12 to 5 a.m. show. So I'm up there and I'm singing and I'm moving around and doing all my stuff. And I see one of my friends, he comes in, he's playing down the street, and he just got off work. And he's sitting there, and I'm up there singing, dancing. And I say, hey, everybody, I'll be right back. I'm going to take a little short break, and we're going to have a lot of fun. And I exit the stage, and I walk down, and my friend's sitting there, and he's got this look on his face, and he goes, John, what are you doing? I said, what do you mean? He says, you're putting on this big show. And I go, yeah. He goes, there's nobody here. And he said, why are you doing all that? And I said, well, number one, I'm working my craft. I'm learning what I'm doing. But he said, one thing he said to me, he says, you're getting $75 a night, the same that I'm doing. Why are you killing yourself? And I said, because I want to make more than that. If I give them a $75 show, that's all I'll ever get. But if I give them a $1,000 show, what I think is a $1,000 show, then that's what I'm going to get one night. And then it wasn't too long after that, I started getting that kind of money, performing and doing shows. And that's what the big difference is. Doing a show, you get paid a lot more money. You sing 4 or 5 hours, you get $75. Right. You sing 40 minutes to an hour, you'll get $2,000. The less you play, the more you get paid. So that was my experience, trying to give them the show what I think, the money that I wanted to make. So it was possible to do that in the casinos and things like that.
Which was very cool at that time. What do you remember most about the time before you hit the shows, before you made it to that level? What do you remember most about the start?
Paying your dues.
What were the challenges?
Most of the challenges I found in my life had nothing to do with music. I knew my craft. I was learning my craft. Most of my problems I had in life were just poor decisions I was making about my life. It had nothing to do with music. It was just...
Can you give us an example?
Partying, going out partying, doing things like that. Not learning how to budget money, keep money. You get money, you spend it right away. I didn't at the time realize how important dependability was and responsibility was. That was a big lesson, because the more successful you get, the more that is expected from you, the more that people rely on you, and the more people expect you to live up to your responsibilities. And you have to do that. Success makes you do that. If you don't, you sabotage your success, sabotage your life yourself. But, it was difficult because sometimes I had a van, and sometimes I'd be sleeping in my van, living in my van. I was so carefree. I just didn't have a mentor to guide me and talk to me and say, John, you need to do this and take this seriously and
So
settle down.
how did you figure out to do that?
By trial and error, making mistakes. Yeah, getting in trouble with the law, things like that. Just being irresponsible, I think. And then one day I thought, people like what I do singing, but they're not crazy about me as a person. And I thought, I can be a better person than this. I need to be a better person. And that was a big change in my life. I thought, I'm going to change my life and learn how to be a better person. And I would watch people. And I had really good girlfriends with good values, morality, and a couple of them in particular. And I thought, what makes them that way? How can I be that way? They're honest. They're just a good person. Because, when sometimes the musicians, they attract different kind of women, but I would always attract the women that I thought were smart, intelligent, because I wanted to be like that. And it was a slow process.
Well, that takes an awful lot of self-awareness. Where did that come from?
I don't know. I always was encouraged myself to want to learn and do better. And I didn't have that opportunity in school. I wasn't focused in school. I just didn't care. I was always looking out the window and was always wanting to do other things. When I was very young, music wasn't my first choice. It was skating, roller skating and ice skating.
Nice.
And then I took an interest in that, and that took all my focus, and that's all I wanted to do. And I was skating competitions and things like that. And I learned discipline.
Where were you living at that time?
I was living in San Francisco, both on California and Polk Street and O'Farrell and Jones. The buildings are still there. They look exactly the same as they did when I was growing up there, except they had streetcars. They don't have streetcars anymore running up and down Gary Street. But yeah, I would get up early in the morning and go down to the roller skating rink at the beach, Playland at the beach. And I had special permission to go there at 5:30 in the morning. The janitor would let me in, and I would skate until my early morning lessons, and I'd stay there all day, and I'd be there at night, and I'd take the bus home. And I would go to school and daydream about going skating.
Well, that's funny. So at what point now you go from skating or daydreaming about skating to performing and to working your way up to shows? Do you remember what your first show was?
Singing. I got my guitar when I was about 8 years old. I was a Cub Scout then. But and I kind of started learning how to play chords. Even though when I was skating, I could sing and play a little guitar. But it wasn't until 8th grade that I actually got involved with a singing group. And one of the guys that I was singing with, we're still friends. We still hang out together. We go on trips together and things, him and his wife and Pepper and I. Yeah, that's when I think I really started taking it seriously. And then by the time I got into high school, I was living in Carson City, Nevada. And I was asked to join a band there. And we played all around Lake Tahoe, Carson City, Reno. And we were just high school. But the mother had connections of the bass player. And she booked us everywhere. And it was pretty exciting.
I laugh. How come it's always the bass player? The bass player has to put in some sort of extra effort in the band.
Yeah.
They either have to have the PA system or they have to have a mother that has connections. The bass player could just never show up and be. So you make it to Vegas, you're playing these shows. Do you have any memories or anything special that has happened at one of those shows?
It was just usually in the big lounges back then, you would see people like the Everly Brothers, the Righteous Brothers, Paul Revere and the Raiders, Billy Joe Royal. Remember any of these people? But they would play the lounges, all the main acts. Little Anthony and the Imperials. He's still around today. these were people that were just terrific entertainers. I mean, it took years before I could get to that level of performing that kind of show. And if you don't have the correct training, it's hard to get there. To develop an artist, to be charismatic and fluid on stage, be glib as far as speaking with the audience, it takes a lot of work. And it's a craft that is very difficult for people to learn today because they don't see that as often as we did back then. Because all the great performers, some of them came from vaudeville, and the comedians. I remember I was working at Caesar's Palace. I was a bar back, pouring drinks in the main showroom in the back. And I thought I had to go out because three of the greatest comedians are on stage. It was Merton Burrell, Danny Thomas, and what was the third one? Yeah, Merton Burrell, Danny Thomas, and there was another one. He was on Shows of Shows. And I watched them on stage. And I thought that is the most beautiful thing, to be able to be on stage and do what they're doing, tell the stories and be funny.
Do you ever add any of that into your shows?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, you work up routines and see, I'm not a stand-up comedian, but, I get people laughing, get people involved.
Well, that's the mark of a good entertainer right there.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's, you have to being a stand-up comic, you have to bomb. You have to do your material, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And that's where I had to go through a lot of stuff, all my little stories and jokes and things that I would use on the audience. Some of it worked, some of it didn't. That's paying your dues. But when you get to the point where they're paying you a lot of money, you've worked out all these different skits that you're going to do. You know pretty much what you're going to say. You know how to ad lib, how to handle hecklers and things. By the time you get to that point, you paid your dues and you know how to handle yourself. And that's what a lot of people in the entertainment industry, we don't have that. Now, comedians have that. They still have clubs you can go and bomb and play.
That's funny you say it like that. Something everybody could look forward to is we got a place we can go bomb.
Yeah, sure. Because, it takes a lot. Nobody wants to bomb. Everybody wants to do fine. But sometimes you got to take that risk. You got to say that, sometimes a joke will work one night. People are just laughing and you pull it out. A couple of nights later, it's like nothing. Right. It's just like people just stare at you and you move on. That happens. It happens,
Well, a lot of times, too, it's not the joke. It's the crowd. It's just the mood that crowd is in, and you might not have just hit the delivery the same way you hit it the night before.
And it's your attitude. Yeah. I mean, your energy has to be high. It can't be medium, or casual, unless that's your demeanor of the show. But, you got to be able to move around and just have that enthusiasm that you're there and that people feel that energy.
You mentioned earlier the setbacks you had earlier in your career. Do you have any setbacks that you had later in your career?
Well, I remember I was disappointed. It was funny because there's a place called the Ormsby House in Carson City. I think it's still there. It just opened up. And by this time, I mean, I've done a lot of shows. I've done really well. And I heard I got an audition there. So I went there and I performed. I got up there and I nailed it and I did really well. So I knew I had the job. I felt I had the job. And I went over to the manager and I said, "What do you think?" He says, "I can't use you, kid." And I go, "What do you mean you can't use me?" I said, "You did great." He said, "Yeah, you did really good, but we're not here to distract people from gambling."
Good point.
Yeah, so they didn't want me to take people away from the tables. And that was a lesson. And I really needed the job at that time. I really needed the job. But I did get a job up at Lake Tahoe at a little place called Harvey's. They had the Harvey's big casino, but they also Harvey's had a smaller casino. I got a job singing there. That worked out okay. And there were a couple of other small clubs around Lake Tahoe. I remember that. But it takes time to get to the main show. You see, the problem today, so you have like The Voice and American Idol and that type of thing. People come from absolute obscurity and they can come in and they can do a couple of good songs and they're just terrific, but they don't have their experience. They didn't pay their dues. And when they go out on the road and have to perform in front of audiences, they don't have what it takes to do that.
They haven't had the time to build that charisma you were talking about
That's
earlier.
right. All of a sudden, they're thrust into this arena, thousands of people come to see them, and they do their one song or two songs, and they don't know what to do. I mean, they just stand up there. You got to pay your dues. You got to learn it. Learn your craft. You don't just become a doctor overnight. You don't become anything overnight. American Idol for doctors or lawyers or anything. You got to go to school. You have to learn. It takes time.
That's funny. Could you imagine that? American Idol for doctors.
Do your best for surgery.
No, thank you.
They almost lived.
You almost made it to the finals.
They almost made it.
So we talk about performing and we talk about doing the more show style performances. What do you enjoy most about putting on these shows?
Meeting the people. I have a saying, there's never a stranger in the audience. I was performing in, I think, somewhere in Carolina, North Carolina, South Carolina. And when I come out, stage, and I wave to all the people and I point to them and go, hey, how you doing? Oh, my gosh, you're here. And after the show, the guy came up and says, well, how do you know all these people? And I said, I don't. He says, well, you act like you do. I said, because there's never a stranger in the audience. And that's when I coined that phrase. If you treat people like strangers, they stay strangers. But if you treat a stranger like they're your best friend, they become your friend. They may not be your best friend, but they become friends with you. So that was a kind of a lesson for me, is learn to treat people like they're your friends or best friends. When you greet them, when you're with an audience, you have to love your audience.
Well, that's a good point. So if you're recognizing the audience and you're pointing them out and you're becoming friends with them, how do you stay connected with them?
You look at them. When you sing to somebody, you look at a part of the audience, or to pick out a person, a section of the audience. A phrase will go here, next phrase will go here, next phrase will go here. It's not just like all over the place. And then when I go back, when I'm singing, sometimes I'll look to the very back. I'll see somebody standing way in the back or sitting way in the back, and I'll acknowledge them. I'll point to them and I'll wave to them and let them know, I know you. I see you back there. I'll say something. I see you smiling back there. I can see you. And that they like to be acknowledged. People want to be acknowledged by entertainers from the stage. It makes them feel important. It makes them feel really special.
Yeah, of course.
When you walk in, if somebody says, hey, Jay, how you doing? From the stage, it makes you feel like, oh, I'm going to bring my friends back here, people want to be noticed.
No, that
You
makes
got to
perfect
give them
sense.
that. Yeah.
Now, are you able to keep those relationships going in social media these days?
Yeah. We meet a lot of people, and Pepper is very good at staying with people, connecting with people. Some people stay in our lives. Some people don't. A lot of people we met in Nashville, they're in our lives. When we go to Nashville, we make the rounds. We go to lunch, go to dinner. We go out and perform together, because a lot of opportunities come from people that you know. It's not like an agent or a producer or somebody walks in the door, but somebody might say hey, I know so-and-so they're looking for, or we do that all the time. We try to involve people in whatever success we're having. We try to bring them in. I do shows here in Pahrump, and benefit shows for the city and stuff like that. And I call up all my friends. They're not professionals. I say, hey, you want to come perform with me? They go, well, yeah. So they come over to the house and we work up one or two songs, and then come on stage and they sing. We work up the background harmonies, and and they love it. They just love doing that. And they're not professional, but they sing, and they sing very well.
And that's a memory you give them for a lifetime.
Yeah, even if they don't sing very well, it doesn't matter. We're bringing them up there, and it's for the city and for the town, and people come out and they get a good show. It's a nice little show. We like doing that for people. We have something coming up this Saturday called White Cane for some kind of benefit, and I have about 7, 8 people, friends of mine. There's only a couple of them that are actually professional singers. The rest of them are just normal people that just want to sing, And we work up. We were rehearsing the other day. We worked up some really nice harmony parts, and we try to bring people in and share whatever success we have with them.
Do they get nervous?
I think so, but we go over the songs over and over again. I said, if they're going to sing 1 or 2 songs, we go over the song. And I said, besides, I'm right here, right next to you. I said, if you forget a word or something, I'm right here, and it doesn't matter. Somebody will throw you the word, I'll throw you the words. We're just going to have fun. It doesn't matter. You go off key, that's fine. You don't worry about it. So there's no high pressure. Now, I couldn't do that on a show where people are paying a lot of money to come and see the show.
Right. Well, are things like this what keeps you motivated?
I'm pretty motivated. Pepper's pretty motivated. We love doing this. It's magical. We all can feel the vibrations of other people, wherever we're in and about in any area. And people feel our vibrations. And we try to make them positive and loving. And we're attracted to the same kind of people with the same vibrations. And I think people are attracted to us and we're attracted to them. And those are the kind of people we have in our life. If they don't have that, we try to help them out, but if they're not interested in enjoying life, then they're in the wrong place. Then being with us is not probably the best thing for them.
So when you're talking about your audience and the connection you make with them, what do you hope they take away from one of your performances?
Oh, just having a good time. An entertainer is like taking a drug. You go see a show because you want that emotional lift, that change. We watch a comedian because it's going to change our emotional state. We go see Taylor Swift because it's exciting. We come out of the show, they've lifted our spirits. Being an entertainer is like a drug. They go up there and they come in, they want to take you in. They want to laugh. They want to forget about whatever's bothering them for the moment. And if you can do that, it's just temporary, but they'll remember the moment. But just for that moment, if they feel happy or whatever it is, then you've done your job.
What is it you now look back on and are most grateful for?
Well, so many things because, you don't make it on your own when you're on your own. You have to have people that help you, and there were certain landmarks in my life where I met certain people that altered my direction where I was going in my life. But I think 35 years ago, when I met Pepper, I was playing at a place right outside of Highland, Palm Springs called Highland Springs Resort. And it was very, very much like the movie Dirty Dancing, where they go to have that resort.
Right, yes.
That's exactly what this was. The same kind of resort. My agent that was booked me in Vegas booked me there, and I went there for the summer. And one night, Pepper came in, and she was sitting there, and I think I started singing Lady in Red. And I walked over to her, and I grabbed her hand, took her off the bar stool, and brought her out on the stage, on the dance floor, and started dancing with her and singing to her, as part of my routine. And she came back later on, and she said, you're really good, but I can make you better.
There you go.
Yeah. And that was the start of our relationship. And she did that through my career, and she always encouraged me to write my songs, but it took many years before I started writing my own songs. But as far as being a performing artist and doing cover songs, I went as high as you could you can go playing country clubs and things like that, getting paid good money, but I was still doing cover songs. But once I started doing my own songs, everything changed. It's the whole dynamic of my career changed dramatically, because everybody starts off as a cover band. The Eagles started off as a cover band. The Beatles started off as a cover band. Everybody starts off as a cover band. But when you make that change and you start doing your own material, you're viewed differently. You're in a whole different category now. I like that. I never had that before. It's a good experience.
So what's next for you, sir?
Well, we're on our way to Nashville. First, we're going to next month, November 10th, we're going to Burbank, California. They're hosting a gala there, award show. Here, Herbie Hancock is going to be awarded something, and some other jazz enthusiast performers. And I'm getting an award for Entertainer of the Year, Singer-Songwriter of the Year, something like that. So that's coming November 10th.
The awards just keep coming, don't they?
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. We just found out this morning. I already had calls from some of my friends that they're going to be at this show. They said, we're going to be there at the show. I said, okay. And then we're going to Nashville a couple of weeks. We go on the way back to Nashville, record some new songs. And we're not going to perform as much this time. We're just going to hang out with a lot of our friends, have dinner and lunches, and socialize. But most of our focus is going to be just recording our new songs.
A big thanks to John for taking the time to share his stories with us. And thank you for taking the time to hang with me here. I really do appreciate it. If you know anyone that would enjoy hearing John's story, please be sure to share this with them. You can do that and find the links to everything mentioned over at jfranzi.com/episode 96. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to The Jay Franzi Show. Make sure you visit us at jfranzi.com. Follow, connect, and say hello. This episode has been brought to you by VR Knives, your source for 100% custom knives made by a true rock star. So, if you're in the market for a new piece of art, reach out to VR Knives. 407-421-5528. 407-421-5528.